What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be building an ARC Trooper helmet. Let's get started. What is up, everybody? This is Christopher the Artist here, and welcome back to another brand new episode here on the channel of General Speed Creates. And today is going to be basically part one of the ARC Trooper build for my custom ARC Trooper. Today we're going to be working on the bucket. Obviously, as you can see, as referenced behind me is my ARC Trooper Havoc armor, which is officially a 5.0 first approved armor set now, which is awesome. But it all starts with this guy. This is a 1-to-1 scale ARC Trooper style cast from the Clone Wars. It has the fin on the back. It has the ears on the sides here. It has kind of a similar Phase 2 face layout. And then I also have a visor as well as a rangefinder included. We're not going to be using the rangefinder that came with this kit. We're actually going to be building a set of Macrobinoculars that are going to raise up and down over the islands and everything. But the first primary process, as I've shown in the past on my Obi-Wan armor video with that helmet, is we're going to be cutting out the visor. We're going to be cutting out these air pocket slits. Those weren't present necessarily on the visor itself for the Obi-Wan armor helmet. But they were on the sides, and it's more or less the same process of drilling a hole and filing it in. So that is going to be what we're going to do. There's also some additional accessories that we're going to need to install, but that is okay. This is going to be fairly exciting, and we're going to talk about very briefly the process and what you'll need to get started. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, just like with any helmet cast, there are tools and materials that you'll need to get started. Obviously, number one, you're going to need your helmet. Number two is that you're going to need, in this case, a drill with a proper drill bit. I need to change this one out, but we're going to be drilling holes all along in the visor and also in the slits on down here in the mesh, basically, where the mesh is going to go. And then we're going to use some files to file out the holes down here. And then you're also going to need a Dremel with a cutting disc to get the bulk of this material up here, and then we're going to file in all the edges. The reason why I'm not opting to do a sanding bit on the Dremel is just because I don't want to cut in too far to the surface of the lens here, or where the lens is going to go. It's easier to remove material than it is to add material. So that's the primary reasoning behind that. Today is all about cleanup and the additional bit other than the lenses and the Bondo work that's going to be in here. You're also going to want to go and take a look at the underneath side of the helmet and clean all of this up, this inside rim. Make this as smooth as possible. And there is kind of an indentation on the inside edge here. Don't go up to this flush line right here. That's going to be a little bit problematic because that's literally right on the edge. But definitely clean all this up. And that's pretty much all it's going to be for the majority of this video is doing the cleanup work and then doing the smooth out of the Bondo work. And everything that I'm doing with this helmet is 5.0 first approved, basically, or you'll be able to use these techniques and do 5.0 first approved stuff. There are some bits that are going to go here and here in the holes for the ARC Trooper. There's also what's known as a vocoder attachment. I don't know if I have it in the kit. I don't know if the person provides it in the kit, but essentially it is a think of it as like a microphone, although it's not acting as a microphone. It's just a prop, a static prop that fits right in this triangle here. I'll show you what that looks like so that we can go ahead and attach it in there. The only thing that we're not going to put in here, and this is the last thing I wanted to talk about, I briefly covered it in the opening, but we are not going to be installing a rangefinder. The rangefinder is, of course, what you've seen on my ARC Trooper armor and everything. A lot of clone troopers have this rangefinder. A lot of Mandalorians also wear the rangefinder. It's a fairly popular device among troopers and Mandalorians. But for this build in particular, what I had envisioned is doing something that's less done as far as the general prop, and that is going to be a set of Macrobinoculars. Classic examples of these Macrobinoculars are going to be used by, say, Lieutenant Thyre and also Commander Bly. They are known people to have worn these Macrobinoculars, and all it is basically it's the same setup as the attachment, more or less, for the rangefinder that goes on this side of the ARC Trooper, but instead of installing right into the earpiece here itself, we're actually going to be cutting slits, and I've already drawn marks on both sides where this is going to go, roughly, and we're going to be installing them in that way. There is a video out there that actually has the installation for at least a realistic set of Macrobinoculars, and we're going to be installing them in the same way. It's from one of my buddies on Facebook. He has a channel known as Patchbots. I'll have a link to his channel in the description below. But he has a fantastic channel that is set for DIY setups for not just clone troopers, but also he's built droids and whatever else. I think he's currently working on I want to say a chopper droid, or maybe he's finished that at this point. I don't know. But he's done chopper. He's done I forget her name, but basically the droid from Solo, that's Lando's droid. I forget the name off the top of my head, but that droid in particular. He's worked on armor, like I said before, and he's done a lot of DIY stuff, including putting lights in a realistic woodchuck DC-15S blaster, which is pretty fantastic. So if you want to go check all that out, that would be fantastic. But the Macrobinocular video that he does, I am going to be taking parts of that as far as the installation, and we're going to be trying to modify that and fit it to this helmet. But that, like I said, that's probably either going to be later in the video or next episode after we have everything cleaned up. But thank you all for watching, and let's go ahead and get started. right, folks, and that's where you should be at with the helmet. Now, the next step to this entire ensemble, after you've cut out the visor and then cut out the mouth slits, is something that we're going to be doing, and then at this point is kind of more of a walkthrough versus a tutorial, at least for me. And that's going to be tackling these guys. These are the Macrobinoculars that I talked about in the concept. These are the patterns that will be included in the link in the description below such that you can follow along with your own build. And they're not a complete, I don't think, 1-to-1 scale ratio. I mean, they are pretty close, but in terms of the design, you might have to check that out. There are some details that go on here on the bottom. So basically some extra layers that go on here that I have also patterned for in the link in the description below. But essentially what we have to do is we have to build it and then also, which is the more daunting task, install it. Now, that's very nerve-wracking for me because, again, I've not done anything like that before. I've only done the Rangefinder, and I think what we're going to do is, because on the side of the ARC Trooper here, you'll notice that we have a little divot slot for what is typically goes in there as a rangefinder. I think what we'll do is we'll drill a hole right in here, and then we will go ahead and cut a slit for where the plastic needs to go. And then I think that will be where we test our mechanism, which our mechanism looks like this. This is a bolt. I have two of these. We have the bolt here, which is a 1/4 of an inch by 1/2 an inch. So it's fairly small, fairly compact, more than enough to get all the material on there, on all of the different accessories. And I have two of these setups. And with these, with each mechanism on each side, I have a washer. The material will go in there. On the washer there. We have a second washer, a lock washer, and then on top of that, a nut that will bolt it all down in place. But what I have to determine is if this system will work with the current setup of what I have. Now, I'm just testing out the distance on the helmet itself, and it looks like it will work on this side for sure. In fact, I'm pretty confident that it'll work on both sides. I'm just very nervous about how we go about attaching everything. So what it's going to take is at least a test run, but we have to build the Macrobinoculars first. And what we're going to use to build that is we're going to be using 1/8 inch styrene plastic as well as 16th inch styrene plastic. And I will have the patterns labeled which parts get cut out on which pieces of plastic, as well as, of course, show you the steps. Let's go ahead and get started. Ladies and gentle peeps, I think that is going to conclude for this episode. This has been a long one. This is more than I intended to have for the first video and whatnot. I gotta say, I am fairly stoked to have made it this far. The fact that this mechanism works is unbelievably fantastic. I can't tell you how happy I am to have this work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do some off-camera work and make sure that these are all where they need to be. But essentially, all that needs now is essentially some cleanup work, and it's ready for painting. But that pretty much concludes, I think, this video of what started out as just the helmet itself as far as shaping it and getting it ready for paint. And then we decided, oh, let's go ahead and throw in the Macrobinoculars. But like I said, a lot of cleanup work left to do. I already know what I'm going to do for this side as far as the knob goes. And I'm not going to secure everything down. I just wanted to make sure that this concept works, which I'm so glad it does. And I don't even have the nuts and bolts and anything like that yet. And the fact that I am able to move it up and out of the way with relative ease and move it down into position to look out of it, that's pretty flipping cool. That's really awesome. I am incredibly pleased with how that works. So yeah, like I said, gonna be a lot of off-camera work as far as body work and everything. I'm gonna get everything ready to go as far as paint, and that will be later on in the series. But I think we're ready to get to some foam building of the actual armor itself. This was an experiment and a half. I'm really glad that this all worked. As you can see, I got some foam armor behind me on the mannequin up here, but that'll be a few episodes from now. But like I said, ladies and gentlemen, before, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. I am pretty freaking stoked, ladies and gentlemen. This is a great way to start the series, and I'm so excited that this set of macro binoculars on the ARC Trooper helmet works so well. Got a lot of cleanup work left to do, but thank you all for watching. Feel free, of course, as always, to Hulk smash that like button. Comment in the comment section below if you're new. Do not forget to subscribe and hit that notification button, and so you can get all the videos and updates on the channel. And for everybody, ladies and gentlemen, may the force be with you always.